Okay.
There you go.
There we go. Sleep Time's over with Kevin the Catalyst, DJ Zach Morris. Episode.
Right off the bat.
We're off the bat.
We're editing. We're free flowing.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Keep
We're
it going?
spacing.
We might as well.
Okay. Season 5. Episode 2.
Yeah,
52nd episode. 52 in the news with our special guest, Mileka Lincoln.
Here we are. Look at this.
Whoa.
Thank you very much for being on here. I mean, this is Thank you very much.
It's
I
a
mean,
momentous occasion.
very much so.
We try to reach out to the local.
We're trying to get the local people on.
Yeah.
We want local. You know, the local people. We need to support local. We need to just build that
I
up.
love that.
Yeah,
And
we found out a bunch of them have stalkers. So hopefully,
A lot of weirdos.
They didn't consider us as a stalker.
So I mean,
Who has a weirdo?
wait, who's the weirdos?
Remember? We were asking all the different newscasters, and you told me like, oh no, you can't.
I would think that's what they would think right off the bat because we're just some
No, but then you
regular
told me-
yahoos that just came out of
But
nowhere.
then you told me like, oh, she's probably not gonna answer you because.
I totally did.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we segue from that to she did. She answered, and this is just I just
Now I
blindly.
feel like my weirdo alert perhaps is not filtered properly.
No, you're just a true person that was just welcoming.
Yeah, for the people.
What a
Right.
cakey.
But we have to get this out of the way. We guessed what kind of car you drove,
Oh, really?
and we want to know what kind of car do you drive.
Anticipating.
You
the life.
saw it?
No, we didn't see it.
Yeah.
So we
Oh.
guessed. We all have guesses.
Oh, I'd love to hear the guesses.
Okay.
Can I hear the guesses
Let's go,
first?
Kat.
I did Nissan Altima.
No.
There we go. Well, definitive no. There you go.
Okay,
You know,
here we
people
go.
don't drive that. Okay, so we got I got a RAV4.
Oh, no.
All right.
Okay, here we go.
Well, I feel like this is like very anti being aware of the weirdo filter that I should probably have. I drive a Chevy Tahoe.
Dude, there it is.
It's very homesteady,
There you go. That's it.
very Hawaii Island.
That's right. We're off-roading.
We thought maybe you came to Oahu, city.
Yeah, right. The big city changed you.
You would downgrade from
No!
the big trucks of the BI to
I mean, I probably should have.
The
That
Nissan
would have been a
Altima.
smarter choice. Yeah, like a Leaf.
a nice.
That's
there you
my,
You want to leave? Really?
I would love, well, okay, this is gonna sound super bougie after we just talked about how homesteady I am. I would love one of the Tesla SUVs.
Well, okay. Well.
We actually got to, my dad
You know
wanted
what?
to test drive one, so we went to Ala Moana and we did
Oh,
that,
yeah.
and I was like, what is this spaceship from the future?
Yeah,
I was like so into it. They have like this way of filtering out all of the toxins from the environment so that like
Yeah.
if there's ever chemical warfare, you'd be super safe in your Tesla.
I didn't know
There you
that.
go. Get ready.
And there's no like windshield sort of separator to the rest of the body of the car, so you actually feel like you're like on the road when you're driving.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah.
What? 100,000? They better be
Right.
clearing out some toxins.
Like I said, it's a bit
Wow.
bougie, but I'd still take one if someone
Hey,
offered me one.
hey, there you go.
That's
guys.
right. I mean, why not, right? You know?
Yeah, she's a public figure.
City
Get in the
gal,
Tesla.
This is not a sponsored ad.
Yeah.
Hashtag ad.
Oh,
Hashtag
there you
ad.
go. Hashtag.
There you go. Yeah.
Didn't know that one.
That's the millennials right there. I think that's We're too old to make that signal.
The
But yes.
it's like the air quotes.
Yeah.
Yes,
We've got
exactly.
our own
We got
thing.
that one.
We've
So
got
moving
that hashtag.
along though, what made you inclined to say yes to being on our podcast?
Honestly, you dropped my GM's name. So
That's
like,
correct.
Thank
I
you, Ricky,
know.
baby.
I'm gonna tell you, I would pretty much walk into fire for Rick Langiardi, and I mean that seriously.
Yes.
With no brown nosing attempt
Of course,
or
right.
air
Right,
at
right,
all.
right.
But I think that he's
I told you.
the fire alarm.
See, that's
For
the
me.
budget we got on the
Where-
show. But
I
Yeah, why not?
actually really like the sound effect. I'm not gonna lie.
Nice.
I think he's an amazing, incredible man, and what he's
Yes.
done, I think, for our community, not just on air,
Yeah.
and in our industry, but sort of the ripple effect that
Yeah.
that has in all walks of life and for all demographics. And I think, really, truly, I'd kind of go anywhere and do anything for him.
I don't blame you one bit at all. I had a feeling that would just we just slide.
That
in
was
there.
that was the way to go.
Did a nickname for enough?
We all call him Coach.
Coach.
Yeah.
He was a coach.
He was a coach.
He was
right.
for
UH?
for
UH?
UH
Yeah,
football.
He
Yeah.
coached the
The
defense.
coach.
Yeah, so when I really like kind of need something or want something, I go upstairs and I knock on his door. I'm like, "Hey, coach."
Nice.
That's like the ultimate in.
That works, yeah.
I probably shouldn't have given away my trade secrets.
Well, there you go.
but
That's it.
yeah,
You get
yeah.
the smile.
Now
and you
everyone
kinda-
knows what I'm driving and how I play the game.
Welcome.
Right? 2 minutes in, that didn't last very
Here we
long.
go. But yeah, I mean that's exactly kind of what we did because I've known him since 2010. And
Yeah,
he was
and
our
Trainer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
and he was one of the first drops we got for the show. I just asked him like,
It's amazing.
"Okay,
And he
can
said
you-
yes.
Can you do this one? Yeah, sure, I can do it. And then
And actually
in the-
listened to our show.
He listened to the show.
Yeah.
He critiqued the show.
Yay!
You know, even when he was doing the drop, he's doing this thing with his hands. There's nobody watching. There's no camera. He's just still doing this and that. I'm like, you know,
Don't
that's-
you love him
It's great.
so much
No,
right
he's
now?
incredible guy. Incredible
He
guy.
is. He is. You know, and I think a lot of people maybe don't know his history, how long he's been in TV, how long he's also
Yeah.
sort of worked toward this overall mission of providing for a venue or platform for just indigenous people and their language. He started out with Univision. I don't know that a lot of people know
right.
that. And so what he did in terms of trying to make news, television, and sort of just access to information in the language that is inherent to you as a native speaker. So of course, Espanol
Right.
through Univision. And then when we started Hawaii News Now Sunrise, we actually had like an Olelo Hawaii component to our newscast for quite some time with
Yeah.
OEV-TV and Amy
I remember
Kalili
seeing
and
this.
Alehu Anthony. And he was a really big proponent of bringing that sort of to life in a more accessible mainstream way, and then OEV-TV was sort of born of that. So yeah, he's just an exceptional.
Oh, very much so. And he's always ahead of the game as
Yes.
far as just his innovations, as far as his ideas. Like, I mean, recently we can talk about something that happened in the news. The newscast is going to be changed, where he's eliminating the sports aspect of it.
Right.
Wow.
We actually have kind of already done that. We sort of rolled that out already. Right.
So there's no longer like at 10:20 of the news half hour, we're going to watch the sports section. It's just kind of just free flowing throughout. Is that how the format is now?
Okay, so I'm not in our sports department, and I have to be perfectly honest. Like my sports, even vernacular and knowledge, is limited to the few things that I do really enjoy, which is
Right.
Trojan football,
We'll get to that.
and a little bit of UFC,
Okay.
and really, that's pretty much it. I was gonna lie and add something else in there.
Yeah.
Why do you follow Hawaii at all?
I do. I
Okay,
follow
okay.
college football.
Right.
I'm not
Okay.
like a huge NFL football
Okay.
fan,
Okay.
but that's like a whole free agency. You can
Yeah.
buy your championship
Right.
type thing that I'm not super about.
Mm.
Oh, bars.
I mean,
That's good.
That's true, yeah.
No, that's true.
how I feel.
That's a topic in itself.
It's like an NBA thing too. I used to love the NBA because I used to
Okay.
play basketball in high school, and now I'm kind of like wah wah. But anyway,
Yeah.
I forgot where I was going with this. Oh, our sports. So
Sports.
I'm not in our sports department.
Oh, right, yes.
So I can't speak to sort of the behind the scenes decision making. But what I do know is that social media has inherently changed the way people look for content, the immediacy in which they demand content, sort of, and that I think has changed the dynamic for whether you're doing news or certainly if you're doing sports. I mean, people want their play-by-play when it happened almost.
Right.
Yep.
And so to wait an hour or half a day or certainly 10 hours later to show someone a clip of what they've already been watching
Yeah.
all
It's
day
passé.
long
Yeah.
just feels like you're missing the mark.
Right.
At that point, they want it to be furthered. They want something else. They want what's happening next. They want the impact. They want the sort of consequence. And I
Exactly.
think that was the shift that
Right,
we
yeah.
were going for.
So what about regular news? Isn't that kind of happening as well? So how are you guys adapting with the regular news?
That's a really great question. I feel like, and again, I'm totally biased, so please take this with a grain of salt. I feel like what Hawaii News Now has done in sort of the dynamic of our online presence, both through what you can, through a traditional going online, hawaiinewsnow.com, and pulling up our website, the information that you have at your fingertips there is, for the most part, almost in real time. And then what we do on the app, what we've done with Facebook streaming and then Instagram live streaming now, and just sort of being where things are happening, when they're happening, and then doing it in an immediate way, I think has really changed, because I think that's the expectation.
Right.
We talked
Right.
about the Marco Polo fire, which is this awful tragedy that's unfolded in our own backyard. People wanted those images as it was happening.
Exactly right. That's how I found out.
They
about
were
it.
not going to wait until the 6 o'clock or the 10
Exactly.
o'clock newscast
Exactly.
to check in and see what had happened. Was anyone hurt? Are evacuations still happening? Can people go home? Or what's so amazing about where we live, how can I help? That was like the immediate response that we get from viewers almost anytime there's a tragedy like that in our own community. And so I think that's how social media has really changed it. So now as a reporter, there's an expectation to immediately get content back to the station.
Yeah.
Immediately, whatever you have.
Right.
Whether you're filing something through Instagram or through the app, or you're sending a paragraph into our web team. I've been experimenting a lot with the Instagram video, which is
Right.
limited to 1 minute.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I seen the whole Mary
Some-
Monarch because of you. I was like, hey,
So
hey.
I'm like super porgy, and trying to like limit what I have to say to just 1 minute has been my personal
Nice.
challenge. But I try to do that
Yeah.
every day when I'm on the scene, when it's happening,
Right.
so that
Yeah.
people,
So you're always on the job,
I
technically.
That's how it works, right? I mean,
Right?
there's no shifts, and if
Yeah.
something goes down, you gotta get on.
I know. And we're not digging ditches, and thank you for all of the people in our community who do that. So it's like hard to complain that it's hard work.
Yeah.
It's just a different kind of constant engagement. You can
Right,
fall
right.
behind quickly.
So can you tell us a time where you got one of those random calls to do a live report or a live?
Or like brought in the middle of the night kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually a really good question. That used to happen quite a bit when I was in Texas. Since I've been home, that hasn't happened as often.
Not as much action going? Or?
It's more sort of the gravity of the story hasn't lent itself to like, everyone news alert.
Oh,
Yeah.
News team assemble.
Right.
We haven't had very many but the one that comes to mind immediately was the military chopper crash off the North Shore.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
I remember that. And that was like one of those, like a 21-hour.
And how do they choose who goes out there to report it? I was like,
Sorry.
I was like, wow.
There you go.
No,
There's
I am
something behind
like,
that.
All
yeah.
the junior boys, that's what you should.
I'm like the ultimate news minion. So
Oh,
if
nice.
I'm like usually this is nothing of anyone else, but it's literally like, oh, Mileka will do it.
Yeah.
Nice.
She'll be free.
Well, you're always out there. It's always
Send
you.
her.
Exactly. You're always the one, the location one. So
Yes, yes. I also have gotten sort of the distinction of being the natural disaster correspondent.
Ah, there you go.
So yes, if the world is ending,
You will
Right.
not be with your family.
right?
You'll be right there.
We'll be watching
I
you.
know. Blowing around in a hurricane, or like hoping that the lava flow won't come. I'm your girl.
It's good to have a nickname.
Yeah.
So good.
Right?
I mean, but you bring up a good point of just how like, staying relevant with the times and just being innovative as far as eliminating the sports part of the show,
Right.
along with having things like Facebook Live and things. That's where it's headed. I mean, that's where it is, right? That's it.
Like
It's
people
just-
Facebook Live everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember when it rolled out, and I was like, but who wants to see like so and so brush their teeth?
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
apparently 17 people wanted to do or whatever I mean, I don't know what the dynamics are, but certainly like when we experimented a lot with Facebook Live. You
Right.
mentioned Mary Monarch.
Yeah.
So during intermission, because we feel like people want content, right? They
Yeah,
want something
definitely.
new, they want something different. You're watching the competition, that's fabulous, but then nothing happens if you're not actually in the Edith Kanaka Ole Stadium at that time. So we just went literally behind like the stage and grabbed people randomly for
Nice.
interviews. And then we got these amazing interviews. We had Kumu Robert Casimiro. We had Josh Tatofi and Raiatea Helm as they were preparing to go on stage. And we just, these people that, were
Yeah.
in that space, and people really felt like they got this like behind the scenes
Right.
look
Yeah.
that they wouldn't have
Right.
got. But where would we have put that?
Right.
We would have never
Exactly.
been able to wait to put that
Exactly.
on
Right,
air.
right, right.
So Facebook Live and Instagram Live have really kind of changed the
So do you
dynamic.
guys have like a clause in your contract with the social media now, being a part of the bigger news station?
Yeah.
I feel like that's coming though.
I would
I
figure
feel like,
so.
yeah,
Your
you know,
representation extension
Well,
of
Facebook is blocking things left and right now. I mean, Instagram is the only one that's kind of letting things flow.
Right.
Right.
And then Instagram and Facebook is like an interesting thing too. I don't know if you guys experienced that, but there's sort of a a type of participant in the Facebook world, and then there's a type of participant in the Instagram world, and then there's also kind of like your on-air thing, and sort of juggling all of those different responsibilities absent of Twitter, which is very interesting. I feel, and I would hate to like speak out of order because maybe people feel differently, but I feel like Twitter's not very big here.
Right.
Whereas I felt like it was huge in Texas.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I felt like I was doing a lot of catch up and learning sort of the Twitter sphere when I was on the continent.
Right.
Whereas here it doesn't seem to be as important. It seems to be like a very sort of industry kind of centric, sort of very narrowed type of people are on Twitter here. Whereas I feel like the universal accessibility has been on Facebook and Instagram, and even they have their own quirks, you know? What a person wants on Facebook is not necessarily what they want on Instagram. I don't know.
So you mentioned Texas.
Yeah.
So how long were you there? How'd you get the job there? Was it right after college?
It was. It feels like a million years ago, but it was. I went to USC. I was very lucky to go to Southern California on the Poor Smart Hawaiian Scholarship.
Which is?
Thank you, Kamehameha School.
Hey! All right.
Yes. And thank you so many others. I was not a Kamehameha School alum. I was born and raised on Hawaii Island, grew up Homestead. My dad was a firefighter for 30 years.
Kamehameha right there, firefighter.
He did not go to Kamehameha, but he loved Kamehameha schools.
Yes,
and we went to all the summer programs. My mom was the secretary at, you guys call it Hawaii Prep here.
Right.
But on Hawaii Island, we all call it HPA.
HPA.
Oh, okay.
But I guess you guys have an HBA here, so it creates some confusion. So she was the secretary at Hawaii Prep, and all 4 of their kids went to school and got a private school education through much sacrifice and hard work on their part, and we all went to college and have since graduated.
Nice.
Excellent.
But I ended up at SC in LA, and they have an amazing broadcast journalism program there.
So you went specifically for broadcast?
I did. I was in the J School. I was in the Annenberg School. At the time, it used to be called the Annenberg School for Communication, but they've changed the name like 6 times since I graduated. That's how long it's been. But yeah, USC really sets you up for the potential for success if you decide that you want to get into this crazy business. And I did. We used to have like a student run, produced, directed, like full blown, no any help from the outside newscast for half an hour every night. And it would either be dead air because no one got their stuff together, or it would be like kind of a college newscast. And so by the time you go through a program like that and you start applying for jobs, people are usually pretty akamai to the Annenberg program and the fact that you're hopefully not gonna like poke your eye out, trying to like on the first day of the job. And so I was really lucky. I took my first job in Laredo, Texas.
Nice. Where is that?
I know.
By the border.
Los Dos Laredos. It is literally like when you're driving through Texas, there's like a sign on the freeway and it says like,
turn around?
It's like Laredo, Texas, USA, 1 mile. And then it's like Nuevo Laredo, Mexico, 1.5 miles.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how close they are to each other on the border. But I went there and I
What led you to choose there? Well, like, from all the offers that you were trying to pick and choose, what said that's the one I'm gonna go by the border?
I know, so crazy. I was really lucky. When I graduated, I had actually done a fellowship with ABC News, and then I was working with CNN. So after graduating, I was not like immediately in sort of the job search vacuum spiral that a lot of other people are, because you've got student loans to pay off and you want to hit the ground running, and it's one of those businesses where there's so much more really people wanting to do it than there is demand for it. So the supply is just sort of outrunning everything. You have to kind of have something or just be willing to do whatever it takes. And I kind of stepped back from all of that because I'd been fortunate enough to kind of line up this fellowship, and I watched a lot of my fellow classmates take jobs in kind of more cushy, like middle America. And then they were miserable because they were covering like cafeteria school menu
Oh.
changes and like literally cat fashion shows.
Whoa.
All right.
And it just
Just the stuff they do
like
out
that.
there.
You like that.
they were not.
I think I was like, yeah, I mean, just that's what they do out there.
Right.
There's nothing to do out there.
And you know, you gotta get your experience somewhere,
Right,
and,
right.
you know. So, and they were truly miserable. And so then when it actually came time for me to put together a tape and start applying, I had benefited from watching the experience of, you know, my fellow classmates, and I had also really wonderful mentors. And when this opportunity came up in Laredo, I had to look where Laredo was on a map. I had
Right.
no idea. But what they were offering was a cameraman, which was really a big deal at the time, because most people in the business start out and they have to like do everything themselves.
Oh, okay.
So you like run to the scene and then you set up the camera and then you
Oh,
stand in
okay.
front of your
Well, you
camera.
have to set up your
Oh
camera.
yeah.
Tripod,
Oh, I
ready,
didn't
Right.
know
that's it.
that.
And they call it video journalist or like multimedia journalist, but really you're just like a minion. Like that's literally what you are. And so what set this job apart from the others was with a photographer, it meant that you would be doing live reporting,
Yeah.
because you would have, you know, and it just sort of changed the game in terms of the dynamic. But what I was not expecting was for Laredo to be as heavy as it was. I got there at a time that that what was happening with the cartels and the
Okay.
fight over I-35,
Okay, yeah,
which
I was
is
just
like
gonna
the actual route through Laredo,
Yeah.
was like really, there were a lot of journalists who were going missing.
Wow.
A lot
Right,
of
right.
journalists on the other side of the border in Mexico, but still it hit really close to home. That was an interesting time to be in
Wow.
Laredo. And so,
You ever felt threatened? Your life felt
Yeah.
threatened
There
when
was,
you're there?
yeah, I'm sure there was some incidents.
yeah, there were a lot of them.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, we eventually left because it
Oh.
wasn't the safest place to be anymore. But during that time, I mean, we covered some incredible. God bless you. You can't see who's on camera, but they sneezed.
See? She's alive.
But we covered like a National Guard soldier who was a Purple Heart recipient,
Okay.
who was using his National Guard van to smuggle drugs and illegal immigrants over the border.
Whoa.
Wonderful.
We broke that story.
Wow.
And I mean, you know, so compared to what some of my other, again,
Right.
friends were doing
Cat
after
fashion,
graduation,
yeah.
you
That
know.
Cat
fashion
Meatloaf.
show.
Yeah.
Meatloaf is too fatty. And then
Right.
you got smuggled.
Yeah.
So I did like 8 months in Laredo, and then I ended up
Sounds
in
like
San
jail.
Antonio.
I did 8 months in Laredo.
Do you know what's
Stop.
actually, okay.
Welcome back home.
I say that, but I will tell you that any of the state or federal agencies that have bureaus in Laredo, this is no lie, any one of them, you do 5 years in Laredo and you handpick where you want to go
Wow.
next. Everyone else gets shuffled based on their area of expertise.
Did you own a gun?
Oh
You
yeah, I
have to,
carried
right?
You
every day.
have to.
It's open.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I got
there you
a
go.
concealed
Yeah.
carry permit, and I carried
That's not
every
surprising.
You're
day.
like, interview. Now.
Right?
Has that ever happened? You're just like, you know, talk.
No, I never had to threaten anyone with a gun to do an
Alright,
interview.
I thought that
But you
would
know,
be-
the thing about Texas is that
Yeah.
you have to assume everybody else also
Right.
has a gun.
Right.
Right. That's just commonplace.
So situations kind of diffuse themselves way differently than they do here. Like here, people can like really act up.
Yeah.
Like they can,
Oh,
it
yeah,
can
yeah,
really
yeah,
sort of
exactly.
escalate
Yeah.
very quickly,
Right.
and then you'll be like, "How did that just happen?"
Right.
But in Texas, and again, this is such a generality, and this
Okay.
isn't an argument. This is not a political statement. This is just my experience. I felt like situations didn't ratchet so quickly because everyone was kind of like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, that guy's probably packing."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
If that
Probably has a
makes
bigger
sense.
gun. More
Yeah.
guns.
Everyone's
and
all
more
aware. Yeah.
More ammo.
people. More ammo.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting experience. But I loved my time in Texas. I miss
5 years? You said 5?
7.
7
So
years.
Laredo, were you in Austin as well? Or
I was. I went
Which
from
parts of-
Laredo to San Antonio to
Right.
Laredo, so or to Austin. So I
Yeah.
basically just like worked my way up I-35, and then eventually got on a plane and came.
how crazy is Austin?
Austin is amazing. Austin was a turning point for me. I was always working towards coming home. That
Yeah.
was the ultimate
Okay.
dream. That was definitely what I wanted to do. And I knew, or I'd been hearing from so many people that the best way to do that was to go to the continent, get your experience in these smaller markets, in other people's backyards, make all your mistakes because you're totally gonna make them. Do all of the awful, embarrassing, terrible things that you don't want like your aunt and your grandma and your sister and your mom to see.
Right.
And then come home and then just have like a little bit enough experience under your belt that you can hopefully hold your own and you can make your community proud. And I've been consistently hearing that. And so I felt like I needed to do enough time up there, but I didn't want to stay up there too long. And then when I landed in Austin, it was an interesting situation. It was with a CBS affiliate that was launching a brand new morning show. And my dream sort of job or role within the industry is actually morning show anchor.
Okay.
I love that shift. I love that just energy, the vibe of a morning show. And so here it was, kind of dangled like a carrot in front of me, and I had the chance to come home, and instead I took this job. And at the time I was like, oh my God, I hope I didn't say no and I should have said yes. And what if that was my only chance? I was just, I kind of beat myself up about that. But I took the job and it was an incredible experience and it was wonderful. But then I started really falling in love with Austin.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Because that community, it's amazing. It's all about like food, which sold. It's all about family, which yes. And everything is very outdoorsy. Everyone's got like a stand-up paddleboard and they hang out on the lake.
Really?
Or they hang out on the boat.
Right.
So it reminded me so much of home.
Right.
Great music, great food, amazing concerts every weekend.
There's eccentrics going on over there, right?
Just,
the bars, everything's kind of like eclectic
like the
things
bar,
going on.
yeah, you know, and not 6th Street, not like that, but like actually just like homegrown, amazing Austin little neighborhoods. And I realized that I could probably really make a life there. And then I was like, don't want to do that. Yeah. And then as fate would have it, as sort of would have been hopefully destined with all like kind of my kupuna with their fingers in it, I got the call and I got asked if I was ready to come home. And I literally packed 2 suitcases and got on a plane.
Nice.
There you go.
I was like, yes, please.
What year was this? When
that was,
did you start?
I got a one-way ticket on Christmas Eve of 2012.
Wow.
And started on air in 2013.
Wow.
I know.
Same station? Same station.
Hawaii News Network,
I actually remember, because I've known Rick since then, that
he was like, this is
told
such
me
a huge gamble. No.
I was like, I'm trying to bring back more local people. I'm trying to bring back, people that people can relate to. A lot of these. He was like kind of tired of the old regime of newscasters, and there wasn't any fresh faces. So we always would talk about it. I always would come up there because I just talked to him like whatever. Like, I'm tired of seeing all these guys, the same guys again and again. Get some new people. Get some,
Then you're like, who hired this Mary? Now you know.
I remember that talk, and I was like, I'm bringing in, she's a local gal, people are like, it's gonna work. Okay. And then that led to all of like Lacey Denise, for example.
Yes.
Just that ongoing roster of just fresh.
Yes, Lynn Kawano, we brought her home from Texas. Chelsea Davis, we brought her home from Texas. So
that's
we
right.
We all were.
Chelsea Davis was from Texas.
Yeah,
right.
so we
have for local girls.
We had this like kind of like Texas tornado, Texas triplets thing going on in the newsroom for a little while. And then we've been fortunate enough to then also bring on people like Allison Blair, who's actually does not have a natural sort of biological connection to Hawaii, but her kane is from here. John Estes, he played UH football. He ended up with the Cardinals. That's how they met. And then she's just someone who's got great experience. So she's like a TV person who brought all of that experience with her here to Hawaii because she wanted to follow her man, right? Which is awesome. I love that. Make a home here. And then has since just completely delved into the community. I mean, what her reporting has done on homelessness and that situation has dramatically changed the response from the community to the programs and the advocacy.
That was a big thing.
And that was spearheaded by Rick, of course, right? Like Mr. Idea Guy, but carried through by reporters like Allison. And then since then, we've brought back people like Sean Ching and Maheleni Richardson and Ashley Nagaoka. And it's really nice that we have this, I think, really well-rounded newsroom.
No, and I've always told him, and this is the honest truth, I mean, it's the most solid roster of all of the newscasts.
Thank you.
As overall from the morning to night, it really is. Because you just have an eclectic group of guys and gals.
Eclectic
It's just,
is the word
and,
for
that's,
it.
and that's what you need. Like, that's what you need, you know?
Yeah.
From, I mean, you got Dan Cook, you know,
I know how awesome
all the way down the
is
line
he?
to, I mean, you got a solid group of
We do.
people there, and it's a
We
good deal.
do.
It's a
And
good
you
deal.
know, we feel lucky. Everyone's got their days, but when you walk into a newsroom in this business now, I've been lucky enough to be in enough different newsrooms, and everyone still has a smile on their face and
That's a
wants
good
to lend a hand or offer help, whether it's through networking or sources or whatever it may be. Sometimes it's like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, like the